Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I thought I would show you how I edit my Instagram photos. I feel like I've kind of perfected the way I do it, and I tend to do the same thing every time, and I've found what works really well for like a consistent feed. I thought I would go through how I do it and the apps that I use, and hope that it helps someone if anyone was interested. I'm going to put up next to me my phone screen so you can kind of see what I'm doing as I do it. So the first thing I do is I open the photo that I want to edit in Lightroom. I've already got the photo up, and the only thing I do in Lightroom is I use one of my presets. Now a preset is basically a saved set of edits, so you might adjust the brightness, you might adjust the colour, you might add a filter, like whatever you do, and you can save it as a preset, which means that every time you use that preset it uses the exact same group of edits on that photo, which basically means that you can get really consistent styles of photos because you can use the exact same edit each time. So presets are a great way of editing a photo and saving it and using that edit over and over again. Again, a great way of getting a consistent Instagram feed. There are loads of different ways of getting presets. You can buy them off Etsy, of like pre-made presets. You can make your own. You can find, there are loads of YouTube videos out there of people showing you how they create their own presets. I have a mixture of ones that I've made, ones that I've bought, and most of the time if I buy them or use someone else's, I'll always modify it slightly to fit my aesthetic and to fit the style of the photo. So yeah, just know that even if you find a preset that you buy and it's not perfect, you can still edit that preset to make it exactly how you want it. So that's basically what I've done. And my most favourite preset is one that I've called 2019 More Orange. I've named them all really random names, but as long as you know what each one means for you. So the 2019 More Orange is the one that I use the most, and this one basically just increases the brightness, increases the orange hue so it makes my skin look slightly more tanned. It takes down the yellow, which makes my hair look slightly more ashy rather than yellow, and it generally just increases the brightness and the exposure. So that's basically what that preset is. If you want another video of me going into detail of that specific preset, then let me know in the comments. I'm happy to go through like every single setting that I've got, but if I do that now, this video will take forever. But just know that that is a preset that I've kind of modified to fit with how I like my style of photos, so it might be different for you and your photos. But yeah, like I said, let me know if you want a specific tutorial on that preset. But that's the first thing that I do. So as you can see, the photo, if I hold down on the photo, you can kind of see the before and after. It's generally just brightened up the photo and brought some more colour to my skin and my hair, and that's kind of my preference with my photos. And that's all I do in Lightroom. I don't really do anything else. The only other thing I would maybe do is crop, if I need to crop it, but any of the apps I use, you have the opportunity to crop, so I don't tend to do it in there. So once I've added that preset, I'll then save that to my camera roll and open the next app that I use. Now, if I've taken a photo next to something that I don't want in the photo, or like say I took a photo right now and like I didn't want the door in the photo or something like that, then I would use this Retouch app, which is really good for removing objects or areas of the photo and kind of blending it all into one. In that specific photo there isn't anything that I want to remove, but if there was, that's a really great app for removing anything. You could remove people from the backgrounds of your photos. I definitely recommend that app. So after I've exported it from Lightroom, I will then open the Visco app. And once I'm in Visco, this is where I do most of my editing. So first of all, I use a preset, which is not a preset that I've created, it's just a filter on Visco that already exists. The good thing on Visco as well is that you can favourite the filters, because there are so many to go through and sometimes you can't remember which ones you've used. But if you hold down on one of the filters, you can star it and it adds it to your favourites, so you can always find it. So I really like this AL5 filter, and I do not keep it all the way. I bring it down pretty much all the way. I might do like 0.2. It does again kind of depend on the quality of the photo. This photo luckily was taken in proper daylight, so I have a lot of natural light and it doesn't need to be brightened up too much. But it might depend, if a photo is particularly dark, then it might need a bit more of the filter. So it does sometimes depend. And then I go back to the settings. Now, this is where sometimes it changes per photo. Again, like I said, sometimes I would increase the exposure if the photo was particularly dark. But the one thing that I do every time is I go to the tone panel and click that, and that's basically the highlight and the shadow. So increasing the highlight kind of takes away the white starkness of it, and increasing the shadow takes away the shadows. And what I do for my Instagram photos is I increase the highlights. I feel like for again, this is just purely my like aesthetic of my Instagram, but I prefer it a little bit moodier, a little bit darker slightly. I don't like it really stark white. I think it's just more appealing to the eye for it to be slightly kind of toned down. That again is just my preference, but for this photo I'm going to do it to about 4.5. Again, holding it down, you can see it just takes away some of that starkness, so that's what I do there. Sometimes I will increase the sharpness. If I'm taking the photo on the front camera on my iPhone, I find that the quality is quite poor, so I will increase the sharpness slightly just to make the photo look a little bit more refined. The next thing that I do is I go into the last icon, which is the HSL, which is the Hue Saturation Lightness, and this is where you can play with the colours in your photo, and this is a great place to adjust the filters that you've set to match your particular photo. So the main thing I do is I go to the yellow and I bring down the saturation. As you can see, this again takes more of the yellow out of my hair. I find that in photos my hair looks a lot more kind of brassy and yellow than it does in real life. So I take down the saturation of the yellow to make it a little bit more ashy, take out the yellow. And the other colour I use is orange, and sometimes I will increase the saturation of the orange, again to make my skin look a little bit more tanned. Again, in photos, especially against a white background, sometimes my skin does get quite washed out because I'm very fair, so sometimes I'll increase the saturation, but only by a tiny amount. The last thing that I do is the grain. The grain is kind of the biggest thing that I've done to my photos recently, and I feel like it adds such an interesting quality and I really like the effect of it. And again, all of my photos on my Instagram feed all have a grain, so I feel that they all look really kind of cohesive together. I would do this to maybe 3.5 to 4 depending on the photo. Again, in the Visco app you can edit your photo exactly how you like, and then you can kind of save that selection of edits as like your own preset, which again is a good tip for if you want to always have the same look on your photos. Again, you can save it and make sure that every photo has the exact same edit. So once I've done that, then I save it to my camera roll, and that is pretty much everything that I do. Another app that I very occasionally use is Facetune. I would never edit my body or kind of warp my face in any way. The only things I use in Facetune is the detail option, which just brings out like the whites of your eyes, or it brings out like your, you know, any section of the photo you want to bring more attention to. So, you know, if I am doing like a selfie or something, I might do it over my eyes or over like my mouth or something, just to make it look a bit more like refined. The only other thing I'll use in Facetune is the tones option, and that basically means you can like paint over sections of the photo. So if I'm standing against a wall and there's like a bit of dirt on it or something like that, I'll like paint over it using the tones. So I definitely don't use Facetune for anything other than like enhancing the photo. I would never kind of change how I look. I do enough editing as it is. Yeah, so as you can see in my like photography section, I do have a lot of apps and I definitely don't use them all. Snapseed occasionally I'll use. Again, Snapseed has a good brush tool, which means that you can brush over sections and like increase the exposure or decrease the exposure. Again, depends on the quality of the photo that I've taken. Again, if it's particularly dark, or like if the background's dark, or if there's a section of the photo that I don't want to be in there, then I'll use the brush and brush over the sections that I want lighter or darker, etc. Once I have done all of my edits and exported the final image to my camera roll, the last step that I do for Instagram is I use this app called the Grid, and it basically means you can plan out your Instagram feed. This is a great tool for if you want your feed to look kind of aesthetically pleasing, if you want to know how all of your photos are going to look as like a collective on your profile. So I really recommend this app, and you basically just bring in the photo that you've edited and you can like move them around. You can really see how they're all going to look, and that is kind of the last thing that I do, and then from there all I do is just upload it to Instagram and kind of keep track of which photos I want to upload using the Grid app. That is pretty much everything that I do to edit my photos. Again, as I said, if you want me to go through how I created that preset, then do let me know. But apart from that, that's pretty much everything. I'll leave my Instagram here so you can follow me if you'd like. And yeah, stay tuned for more videos to come in the future. Thanks for watching.